Hello, Fear the Meerkat here, and welcome to another episode of The Thing It Says on the Screen. Love saying that. And there's going to be an Easter egg in this week's episode. I thought just to make things a bit more interesting, I would put an Easter egg somewhere in here. That's not a literal Easter egg, obviously. I don't know how I could put that in a video. Well, it could be a video about Easter eggs, obviously, but you know what I mean. It's a hidden thing that you have to click on at some point. I'm not going to give you too many details because I want you to have to hunt for this thing, and that will bring you up to a video. It's not a video made by me, but it's a video that you might find cool, or you might just find it cool to search for the Easter egg. And in the future, I might put up videos by me as Easter eggs if this whole thing works out. So there's that. So without much further ado, let's get going. You can have a look around at everything if you want. You're supposed to look at everything, although I think there's certain specific things it's more helpful to look at.
I wonder if the Chodak deliberately chose a site with such a good view of the sky. Those spires are fascinating. I wonder whether they're natural or whether the Chodak sculpted them that way. I wondered if there could be anything behind this pile of rubble.
If you fire at it with the phaser on lower setting, it just keeps on going and then stops going after a while, so. Now you might remember that we've been told these things can activate Chodak technology, or even Chodak technology. See, I cannot escape the curse of this thing cutting off a little bit of the edge of the screen. I don't know why. Anyway.
Fascinating.
That's all you got to say, huh?
Intriguing.
Yeah, you could try.
Some of the data has been corrupted over time. However, I believe the ship's computer can still extract a great deal of information.
See, that's the sort of response I was hoping for. Keep it on Geordie, he's good at technical thingies.
There's some more equipment over there.
Look, a shooting star. On Earth, that means you get to make a wish.
Shooting star is actually a misnomer. In reality, they are simply meteors which are incinerated as they enter a planet's atmosphere.
I know, Data, and rainbows are just the refraction of light by water droplets, but they're still beautiful.
Data's always my favourite character. I suppose I feel some sort of personal connection with him to some extent, because I always sort of feel I have Asperger's syndrome, so I don't really sort of always understand people, I guess, the way they work. Sometimes it kind of feels like I'm an android myself. I mean, I don't think that's true literally, but it kind of feels like I'm looking at everyone else from the point of view of being outside the human species, if you like.
This is definitely a field generator. but I'd have to study it more closely before I could give you any details. This device generates the chameleon field that disguises the station when you look at it from space. It's incredible. An energy source still working after 900,000 years. The device is like a subspace phase spectrometer. We use them to measure the intervals between subspace phase pulses. It's incredible.
No, I've always seen that.
I think this is a mounting for an instrument to hold it steady while you take your measurements.
This looks like a device for analyzing and recording astronomical observations. This is a highly advanced subspace phase spectrometer. I understand it's used by astronomers to measure the interval.
Right.
If I were to speculate, I would say that this particular site was used for making astronomical observations.
That would explain why this outpost is so far from the main body of the Chodak Empire. Perhaps they were attempting to make clean observations, uncontaminated by interference from their own transmissions.
Let's record as much as we can. Our computer can analyze the data and make sense out of it later.
There's a lot of scientific equipment in this part of the site.
This must be the heart of the station. We must be especially careful to examine everything we find in detail.
Now this section is kind of annoying because you're really not sure what to look at. There's a limited number of things and there's
The display panel is over at that end of the room.
quite a lot of things
It did not work.
that there's quite a lot of people who can talk here, so I've really already seen this.
Many of the components are still operational. We might be able to get this to work.
Yeah, we already have. So yeah, if there's an eye here, look at it.
I suggest we return to the ship. I believe we have found as much as we could expect to with a cursory inspection.
Ah,
Beam us
at
up.
last. There we go. Sorry that took a while.
Captain's log. The archaeological site on Horst remains a fascinating mystery. I'm hoping that our ship's computer will be able to analyze the tricorder data we discovered at the Chodak site and tell us quickly what we need to know.
Admiral Williams here. What can I do for you, Captain?
What is the current situation, Admiral? Is there anything in particular we should be aware of?
The Romulan incursion is all but over. The surviving warbirds have entered the Zatanus Nebula in pursuit of an unknown objective. We think they may be after a legendary superweapon built by the ancient Chodak.
I'd like to confirm our current orders.
Of course. Your orders are to investigate the real reasons behind the Romulan incursion.
Well, I could go for what's the assessment of the recent performance, and I will do at some point, but I don't want this episode to drag out with no action at all.
Picard out.
I want it to be interesting for you, basically.
Counselor, do you have any thoughts?
I'm sorry, Captain, but I don't have any suggestions right now.
No, she never thinks. She has no thoughts in her head at all.
Mr. Data, any suggestions?
I suggest we contact Starfleet, Captain.
Yeah, we've
Any
done.
suggestions, number one?
I'm sorry, Captain, I don't have any suggestions.
Mr. Worf, your analysis.
Captain, we should check our orders from Starfleet.
Well,
Admiral Williams here. What can I do for you, Captain?
Since it doesn't seem to be a lot else to do, let's hear about how well we're doing.
What's your assessment of our recent performance?
I'm pleased to note that you contacted the Klingon attack cruiser Bortas, which intercepted and diverted a squadron of warbirds. Captain Kedra was able to take prisoners and obtain some valuable information about the reasons for the Romulan invasion. Shall I go on?
Yep, I'm pretty cool. Please keep complimenting me.
Please do.
We're proud of the work you did in the Golder sector. Based on the information from the Enterprise and the Bortas, we've reclassified the invasion as an incursion. Shall I go on?
That was the noise of my microphone falling on the desk.
Please do.
Very impressive, Jean-Luc. The Enterprise successfully defended Com Relay 543 and defeated a warbird in the process. The Romulans will remember this for some time. Shall I go on?
Please do.
Starfleet Command is very pleased with your first contact mission to the Garidian colony on Phrygia. However, the subsequent discovery of the fifth scroll will have profound effects on Garrod. I commend you on your handling of the Garidian refugee problem. Tobak, Lucana, and Avakar have returned home aboard the Garidian warbird Asirum. Their intrusion into Federation space has been handled through diplomatic channels. Shall I go on?
Please do.
You did good work on Marasia. Dr. Hunforsh is back at work with the Preserve, and relations with the Marasians have improved noticeably since your visit. Shall I go on?
We've already heard what she thinks about
No,
Mert
thank
and
you.
Orbital Station.
Picard out.
Sir, we are receiving a signal from Starfleet. It is Admiral Williams.
What, the same one we
On screen.
talked to 2 seconds
Greetings,
ago?
Admiral. What can we do for you?
An unknown alien race has just crossed the neutral zone into Federation space. All attempts to communicate with them have failed.
Are they hostile?
Definitely. So far, every ship and outpost in their path has been attacked, disabled, and left for dead.
Do we have any idea of their objectives?
That's the strangest part. It looks like they're pursuing the Romulan fleet into the Zatanus Nebula.
Then my first instinct will be to let them go with our blessings.
I wish we could. Unfortunately, Outpost Delta 08 lies directly on their present course. We can't afford to lose it. Proceed at best possible speed to the Yaz system and intercept.
Understood. Picard out.
What are your orders, Captain?
Set course for the Yaj system. Maximum warp. Engage.
5.1 is not maximum warp. It's pretty slow warp. Anyway, yeah, I guess they just wanted you to kill time before they were ready for this next event. I might cut some of that out as well, actually. I don't know.
Unidentified alien vessel ahead. They have locked weapons onto us.
Red alert! Shields up!
Hail them.
There is no response. They are firing.
Evasive maneuvers.
It's best to avoid getting into combat with these guys if you can. You don't have a lot of choice with this one, unfortunately.
Enemy ship is firing. We have been hit. Red hit. Shields are holding.
Fire.
Now, this is a pretty dangerous strategy,
We have been hit.
but I'm gonna try it.
Engage tactical maneuver. Fire.
weapons. Torpedo locked. Red hit. We have been hit.
No damage.
Enemy ship is down.
Ah, this
Shields
is a
are holding.
pixelated mess, to be sure.
Damage to the sensor array. Red hit.
Fire. Fire.
No damage.
The enemy has engaged its self-destruct sequence.
Trust me, we are pretty lucky that it did that.
Torpedoes.
Presumably they're constantly engaging and disengaging their self-destruct.
Matter-antimatter reactor down.
Mr. Data, check the ship's computer for any possible identification of these aliens.
We have no record of contact prior to these attacks.
There have been rumors of a war between the Romulans and an unknown race on the other side of Romulan space. Perhaps these are the same aliens.
I want to know why we had so little warning before the alien vessel's attack.
We did not detect them on our sensors until they were already within visual range.
Did they have a cloaking device?
During the battle, our sensors registered emissions similar to those of the alien probe that attacked Merton's stations and the planetary shield protecting Frigis.
A chameleon field?
That appears to be the case.
Perhaps these aliens were also responsible for the attack on Merton's station.
The chameleon field is an ancient Chodak technology. These aliens might have borrowed it from them.
Mr. Data, plot the course of the alien vessels based on their attacks in this sector.
The pattern of their attacks would indicate that they are headed for the Zatarnus Nebula.
Then it appears that the Romulans aren't the only race seeking the Unity device.
Have a quick look on engineering.
Go to red alert.
Now, I don't think there's any way to speed up the repairs, so...
I have correlated the ancient Chodak star chart with our own astrogation charts.
Does it reveal the location of the Unity device?
I can find no mention of the device. However, the chart does contain the planet Alanor.
If Alanor was the administrative center of the Chodak Empire, isn't there a chance some trace of the Chodak remain, even today?
Sounds like a long shot.
It might be the only one we've got, number one. Where is Alanor?
The planet is located inside the neutral zone.
I don't think we need to worry about the treaty at this point.
Still, we must use caution. There is a provision of the treaty which allows for scientific research. We'll use that as a cover for our mission. Mr. Worf, inform Starfleet.
Aye, sir.
Lay in a course for Alanor, Warp 5.
I'm not sure we can go to Warp 5. Depends on how...
Matter-antimatter reactor down.
on what, I'll have to go Warp 1
Matter-antimatter
then.
reactor down.
Okay, this is awkward. Well, I suppose I've got a little while to talk then. So yeah, I apologise for the fact that this has been a rather dull episode of not much going on. I guess the episode's going to have to end when to Eleanor when that event happens. Nothing really interesting has been going on here. We walked around a planet and not found that much. So do that. Ah, right, at last. Here we go. It's going to take us 103 light years to get through this. So, there you go. So, yes, as I was saying, I always like Data. I think that Star Trek likes to put in, well, the writers like to put in a character who's sort of outside of humanity, as it were, and there to kind of explore what humanity is and what it's like to be human. A sort of metaphor for that, I suppose. A character that's used to explore that idea with Spock in the original series, and then we have Data in the Next Generation, and probably characters in the others as well, but I don't remember who they are. So that's helpful.
Warning. Entering the neutral zone.
It's interesting, actually. You go to the neutral zone, then you come out of it briefly, then you go back into it again.
Captain, I've been studying our records of one of the Chodak devices we found on Horst 3. It appears to have been designed to measure the period of a pulsar for use as a standard of time.
Translating Chodak time units would be a major breakthrough. It will give us a better understanding of Chodak science.
Unfortunately, the Zatarnis Nebula has expanded since the Chodak abandoned the station. The nebula now completely obscures the pulsar.
The nebula grew that quickly?
The Zatarnis Nebula is one of the youngest celestial bodies in the galaxy.
Are there observations of a pulsar in that region of space?
None in Federation records, but the Chodak star chart does contain a pulsar at the proper coordinates.
Can we observe the pulsar ourselves?
The pulsar is on the far side of the nebula. It cannot be observed from anywhere within Federation space.
Does it have a name? We should be sure a science vessel is sent to observe it.
The Chodak chart refers to it as the Gambara pulsar. It lies in unexplored space near the Romulan border.
So, it's kind of weird. The number of light years left to go pauses whilst the characters are talking, which doesn't make much logical sense. Surely you'd still be travelling during that time. Anyway, I assume the neutral zone is an area that's being set up to kind of appease both sides, as it were. So we'll say, right, there's this sort of buffer zone between Federation space and Romulan space, and no one's really supposed to go there because it's not kind of owned by anyone.
Entering Federation space.
I mean, I suppose it's possible they just call Romulan space the neutral zone, but I don't know why they would call it that specifically.
Warning. Entering the neutral zone.
See, you leave the neutral zone, for a few seconds you go back into Federation space, and then you come out again. So clearly you're not just travelling straight forwards, or sort of straight in any direction. Well, I suppose either that or the neutral zone isn't straight, if you see what I mean. That was kind of boring.
Captain's log, we have arrived at the planet Alanor, where we hope to find information about the Unity device, a legendary superweapon created by the ancient Chodak. Although we've managed to travel deep into the neutral zone without being challenged, I feel certain that an encounter with the Romulans is only a matter of time.
Helm, standard orbit.
Well, I'm not
We've
super...
completed our scan of the planet. The surface is heavily damaged and radiation levels are high, possibly the result of war in the distant past.
Are there any life signs?
No, sir, but we have detected an extensive network of caverns below the surface. We are picking up Cochrane field emissions from one of the chambers.
Is it a natural phenomenon?
I do not believe so. The field is exhibiting a binary modulation pattern, which may imply some form of computer in operation.
Sounds like a good place to begin a search.
Sir, many of the caverns are heavily shielded. Our comm systems and transporters will be unable to penetrate them. The nearest beam-in point is more than 3 kilometers from the Cochrane field source.
Then that will have to be close enough. I'll lead the away team myself.
Captain, we have no idea what's down there. We can't risk it.
Number one, we have no choice. The Unity device, if it exists, could be a weapon of incredibly destructive power. We must learn what it is and what it can do. My knowledge of the Chodak could be vital to the success of our mission.
All right, sir. I'll assemble an away team.
Make it so.
Well, that was quite a smart, sensible thing for Waker to say. So yeah, in the next episode we will actually be going on Alanor and hopefully making some more progress. But that's going to have to be it for this episode. I will see you next time.